Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Deep3 episode. Today's guest is Brandon Goble, who does a ton of great work, who kind of inspired me. Follow him on Twitter a while back, and just inspired me to help young athletes from different parts of the world, you know, reach the U.S., try to get an academic scholarship, and further their education, and basically just a better chance for a better life, I would say. Brendan, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, you bet, man. Happy to come on.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. So, Brendan, can you talk about how it all started? You start. How did you think about helping kids get over the U.S. and just giving them a better life?
Yeah, so it all started with a guy named Solomon Heine. I was working initially doing data and analytics for a D1 program, and just as a side thing, and met this guy that wanted to walk on at this program, and he was unique because he had been in the military for the last 6 years, and so when you're in the military, your clock stops. And so he was older. He was 24, I think, something, and wanted to walk on. Coach wasn't looking at any walk-ons, and so I said, "Well, I'll work you out and film you, and I'll see what I can do." I hadn't started Juco Advocate yet or anything like that. I didn't know anybody in basketball really outside of the team that I was working for, but I did know one assistant down at Midland Junior College. And so I worked him out, filmed it, sent it down there. They said, "Yeah, we'll take him as a walk on." He ended up starting there, and then said, "Hey, I need help with my recruitment because being 24, a lot of people thought his clock was smoked. They didn't know the story behind why he was older." So went to work on that for my personal Twitter account, and was effective. He ended up ton of D1 offers, ended up playing Division I ball for 3 years, got his grad degree through it and everything like that. But at the time, then once we kind of got him taken care of, I said, "All right, I enjoy doing this, and there's a lot of people that need help." So reached out to a few of the guys that I had met through that process, and then a couple other friends that I had from some other business ventures that I had done before, and really it just started as a Twitter handle. It didn't really have a ton of plan behind it. I guess it still necessarily doesn't, just because the plan changes every day, it seems. But started as a Twitter handle and a spreadsheet. Guys would hit me up, and I'd add them to the spreadsheet, and I'd watch their film, and just started reaching out to coaches and establishing relationships and stuff. And then it just kind of went bonkers. Um, and so now,
I found out about it off Twitter. Just saw the pro might have retweeted or something, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. Let me see what this is about."
yeah, yeah.
And you kind of
And
look deeper into it,
we've
like, "Oh,
maintained
wow."
the nonprofit status side of it. We don't take any money from kids for anything that we do, any event that we run. Um, the scouting stuff. It definitely has changed from the initial point, just because of the volume, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things. Like, I wish I could take care of everybody, but we just can't. So we utilize the resources that we have to make sure that kids have access to things. Verbal commits is the kind of thing that, like, even though it's basically information, it's databasing, things like that. Like, every coach in the country uses it.
So
Um,
since you mentioned verbal commits, I don't know, we have quite a chunk of listeners from Europe, and maybe you want to mention what verbal commits is about.
yeah. Verbal Commits is a website, verbalcommits.com. Nathan LeClaire, who's co-owner of the company with me, runs that. And so Verbal Commits is essentially the source at this point for every offer, commitment, signing, Division I and Division II basketball. And so if a kid gets an offer from any D2 or D1 school, they're in the system. We handle all that manually. We vet the offers. We're about as accurate as you can possibly hope to get on that, where we're not posting fake stuff. And so because every coach in the country uses it, then some kids get seen by just by being on there. Uh, the website is something that we're in the middle right now of working on it, because it's just some older technology and things. So there'll be some exciting stuff coming down the pike with that. But I mean, we did 2.3 million unique users last year
Wow.
alone. Like not website visits, but like
Yeah.
unique people visiting the site, and hundreds of millions of visits. So um, it's a pretty powerful space. Um, and yeah, so people use that, and and then the JUCO Advocate side of it has really been events and the scouting, and a lot of our overseas work that
Yeah,
we do.
so what you started with, what you said, it's like kids might reach out to you and stuff like that, and now it became a whole different beast, a whole different animal. Can we go on that side, because I know we talked a few times about the events you run, the
Hmm.
camps you run worldwide. Can you tell our listeners, about the stuff that you do that it's basically worldwide, to give all these kids a chance to be seen by college coaches, through Juco Advocate.
Yeah, so that part of it kind of just evolved out of thin air, really, and and now has become a pretty big piece of what we do and what we will be doing going forward, with a lot of other projects that we have on the horizon that unfortunately COVID kind of put the brakes on some of those things, but next year we'll be back after it. Um, the first time we went overseas, we had a coach who is now a good friend of ours, uh, Matthew McAllister, who's a high school coach up in Minnesota, and he hit me up on Twitter one day and he said, "Hey, do you want to go to Tanzania?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And we kind of spoke it into existence, really. We talked about it for 3-4 months, and we just kept talking about it. And he was the Tanzanian national team coach, and so he would go over there and work on their grassroots stuff, like doing camps and things to kind of elevate the younger players over there. And so we said, yeah, sure, we'll go. So me and a couple friends went over there. Dan Poneman, who's an NBA agent now, and then Shay Frazee, who's an NBA trainer, came with me. And the first time we met, Matt was in Africa. So fortunately, he wasn't catfishing us. It he was real, and so we showed up in Dar es Salaam and went and ran this camp for a week. And I mean, it's one of the coolest things I've ever done. Just the kids and the people, and you're uncomfortable the entire time, because lack of infrastructure, the consistent water and power, and different things like that, like, is so foreign to us. Um, but over there, like, you just kind of deal with it. And the weird thing is that through all of the, like, uncomfortable physical, just like, what would I give for air conditioning and a buffet right now? Like, you're happier than
Like,
you've
where's
ever
my
been.
my 5-star hotel, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, there's some of the places we've been. Oh my god. But the kids were amazing, and we came out of that camp with a few guys that were able to get over here, a couple war refugees from Congo, that are still in college, and then the big kid who's actually from Tanzania, who's at a high school up in Canada right now, that's now an NBA prospect. And it was just a kid at the camp. It wasn't like we knew him or anything before. um, and so we went and did that, and then we backed it up again and went to Nigeria the next year, which was crazy. And we were fortunate enough to get connected with Gideon George, who's now headed to BYU, at that camp, and then also a few other guys that we're still working on to get over.
Honestly, from what I hear from you, is just, it could be because I've heard of scouting services, scouting companies, and they're all like, "Oh, it costs like so and so to send you to college." I'm like, It just goes against. To me, it's I don't know. It goes against whatever I believe. It's like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
paying for
was in the
opportunity is
same
not.
way, in the same boat
Yeah.
where I got a chance from high school in the U.S., a really good high school in the U.S. I was given a scholarship to come over, and okay, maybe I was a little bit different because I was at a basketball without borders, in Treviso. So I was seen by European clubs too. So maybe that was
Hmm.
a little bit different. But to me, it's just the sense of fulfillment you probably get from this opportunity is that you said you have a few refugees from the war in Congo. Like, I mean, there's just the fulfillment you get for this, and I mean, those people are gonna be forever thankful for what you have done for them. And it's more important than the 5-star hotel and all this stuff that does it really matter? When you go over there,
Right.
5-star hotel,
Yeah.
you do these camps and you make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you help bring these kids over, and like you said, some of them right now, you have one that's a NBA prospect, right? So
Yeah. And I mean, honestly,
really
for us,
amazing.
like
The diamonds in the rough.
it is incredibly fulfilling. I mean, we basically just go over there and everything we do is free for everybody. We pay for the whole thing ourselves, and so it gets to be a pure, I guess, process, um, where we don't want anything. We're just happy to be there and happy to help. And then we get to meet these amazing kids and build these relationships with them, and they basically end up being family. And a lot of what we do is trying our best as well. When like with Gideon or with the process that a tiki will go through, is we guide them as best we can. I always kind of describe it as like, I will not tell you where to go. I won't. I might tell you where not to go, but I'm
I
not.
think
I'm
that's
not
fair.
going to
I
tell
know,
you where to
honestly,
go.
I think that's fair because once you send a few kids over, you kind of see, in all honesty, I have a lot of friends in college basketball, but just some programs are not built for foreigners. I'll be, just it just
Yeah,
you have to understand. I think the people that they just kind of put their life on hold and like, okay, I'm gonna try this thing. I'm gonna go blindfold, just leave my family behind and go play
yeah.
basketball, go study, and there's a certain like care and attention these kids need. It's
I
not.
mean, the culture shock. I can't imagine what that's like. Like coming from Europe is a culture shock. Coming from men in Nigeria, where Gideon slept outside most of the time and had to, walk miles with buckets to get water because they didn't have running water. Like, what is that culture shock like? We
Yeah.
we expect integration into our culture and the basketball lifestyle and a college education setting to just be an easy thing because that's just what we're used to. But like, I can't wrap my head around like what that must
And
feel
we just
like.
take so many things for granted too. It's like, oh, that's normal. Like
Yeah.
my Wi-Fi is out. That's a problem now. It's like
Right. Yeah. It's
you just, it's crazy.
funny the things that you take for granted, and then when you go over there, you very quickly realize like the things that you take for granted when you're here, and over there you're just even though we make sure that we're safe. We hire security, and um, we're staying at like the Nigeria thing was a trip, but like, in Dar es Salaam, there was never a time that like I felt unsafe in Tanzania, really. Nigeria, there was a few times, but it, just the simple things of like going through your day where you're just like, holy crap, everything here is so much harder to do,
Yeah.
because we take advantage or take for granted what we have, what makes our lives easier, over here or whatever. So it's a cool thing, and so we did Nigeria, and then we went to Trinidad Tobago, down in the Caribbean. Did the same thing. Got some kids here that are going to college now, and then the plan was this summer. I mean, this is when it was really going to take off. With I was headed to Paris, really when everything kind of blew up in March. Like I was literally getting on a plane the next day, and it was like, hey, you may not be able to come back. If you go to Paris, you might be stuck there for a while. Um, they started shutting down the country over there,
Yeah.
and we were gonna head to Western Tanzania, where Tiki's actually from, so the opposite side of the country from where we had been before, closer to the Congo border, and probably Mumbai. in India there, and then back to the Caribbean again. And so it was there was a lot of plane tickets being canceled in March.
Well, luckily, I mean, hopefully all the airlines kind of just give you credit and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
it was kind of weird at the beginning because they didn't know. So no,
yeah,
we definitely got screwed out of some stuff for sure.
yeah.
It was like you had to
Oh,
cancel it then, but at the time they were like, "Well, we don't know if this is going to be
yeah.
a thing."
Well, the airlines always screw you. So that's one thing
Yeah,
I've
for
learned
sure.
over time. Happened to my return flight too this year.
Yep.
So like, oh yeah,
Yep.
we can't do this, we can't do that. You just get like
Yeah.
half credit. And I was like, wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Really?
think I
Like it
got
was
like about
it's
half.
my fault. You get stuck somewhere. It's like, oh, it's my fault now. Like you
Right.
blame me.
Yeah. The airline was literally like, "Well, you can still go to France." Like,
Yeah, right.
and I'm like, "Yeah, but turn on the news. Like, what are you talking about?" They're like, "Well,
Well, we don't
sorry."
care. You get stuck there. That's not our problem.
Yeah. I'm like,
I
"Jeez,
mean, yeah,
guys."
it's
So,
a crazy story. I had a friend that got stuck in the US for like 5 months almost. Because the Romanian border was closed,
yeah.
and it was just it was one of those things that Romania completely shut down. There was no flights in the country.
Yep.
They just got
Yeah.
stuck in the U.S. for a really long time, and I was talking to a few college coaches. This year is tough. I don't know because some of their kids can't come back. Like I think
Yeah.
Australians have a hard time coming back in the country right now, from my understanding. Or I don't know.
They might. I think they might be having a more difficult time now. There was a time not too long ago where it was actually relatively easy to get out of there. We've kind of become the country here in the U.S. where we can't go anywhere because we're a
Basically,
total crap show, but everybody else can. Because they've figured out their issues, and they can come here. So,
yeah,
um, but I mean, yeah, it was definitely some strange travel stuff. Like we kind of had to help move some kids around. Um, like Big Owen from Ireland, that's going to Wyoming. Like he went to Croatia for 2 weeks because he had to go. Like you couldn't fly here from Ireland, so he went to Dubrovnik and hung out for 2 weeks quarantining.
not
And
so
then
bad.
yeah, like tough,
You
tough
go to
life, right?
Dubrovnik is
Yeah,
not so bad.
yeah. I was like, he's sending me pictures. I'm like,
Are you on
okay,
vacation?
yeah. So he hung out there for a couple of weeks quarantining, and then was able to come into the U.S. and even now, like I think some places you can just come,
Yeah.
from
Well, I mean, it's
where
just
you're
difficult.
at.
I came
So
from the U.S. and I came to Romania 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and I have to quarantine 14 days. And a lot of the
yep,
U.S. pro players are going to have to do that because
yep,
that's the rule. And I think, yeah, if you only have a U.S. passport, I think you got to show your contract. I had a friend that was like almost held at the border. Just show us your contract. What are you doing here? Why are you coming from the U.S. here?
yeah,
It was just difficult, and it's just such a weird time because we've never lived that before.
yeah. We're the toxic country now that now we get to feel what it feels like for everybody else when we're always
You try
asking
to get a
them
visa, right? You try to get
questions.
a visa.
Yeah,
Like, oh my God, try to get a visa, come to the US. Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely not an easy process, man, anywhere. So, what I meant to ask you is you said you are a nonprofit, but I mean, somehow you have a lot of costs. So, how does that work for you guys? Just bringing these kids over, going to camps and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we have our scouting service stuff that we do with uh, mostly Division 1 schools, um, and then the events that we've run in the past. Coaches pay admission to come in and do that, but kind of our model is really built around some other revenue streams down the pipeline that I think we'll end up transitioning to, and probably transition away from scouting service and event costs. We make money off of that, but it pays the bills right now. I mean, that's our eventual goal is, the website has so much traffic that is one large revenue source. But then corporate sponsorship stuff. We had a lot of things
Do you
lined up
mind
this
mentioning
summer.
the website so people know where to find you? And
Yeah. It's just verbalcommits.com. And like I said, there's some exciting stuff coming with that in the next few months, hopefully. But there's the advertising stuff there, and then corporate sponsorship stuff. We had a lot of things that we were working on this summer that I think we would have put ourselves in a position to be able to then transition to that model where we don't charge for the scouting service anymore. It will be free. And the
That's
events,
awesome.
we don't charge for, we would not end up charging admission to the events. Events would be free for coaches to come to. So no
Oh,
more
wow.
packet fees or anything like that. And that's still the goal. And we'll get there. We just have to wait for the world to get its head out of its ass. Cause it's just, there's advertising dollars, companies on hold, stuff like that just isn't there. But once it is, that's kind of the model that we head towards. We've built a large enough brand and a following, and have an impact in the marketplace. I believe that we've got a lot of value to corporate partners, with from an advertising and sponsorship standpoint. So
To be honest with you, I don't know, just being in sports right now doesn't feel very safe or stable. It's like
nope,
like we still don't know how we're going to play next year. For example, we're talking about maybe having some tournaments where we got to quarantine 7 days before, go
yeah.
play 3 4 games in a row, then come back home, practice for like 3 4 weeks, then do it again. There's just so much stuff up in the air.
Well,
Uh,
that's why we've tried as best we can to remain as dynamic as possible. So, the scouting service and events is just what is now a small part of what we do. Um, the media stuff and preparing for some TV show things that we're working on, and some fashion things that we have coming down the pike,
nice.
in regards to collaborations with NBA players, and when there's name, image, and likeness with college players, and just lots of different things that we're kind of expanding into, so that at any given time there's not like the reliance on one
Yeah, you just
revenue
diversify everything,
source.
and I mean, it also helps because all these kids you're bringing over, I think a good chunk of them are turning pro somewhere. Yeah, of course, the NBA guys, it's not easy to have 1, 2 NBA guys every year, but
Right.
just from following, and they play at really good schools. Some of them really are really high level players, and
And
that's
I mean, how this business is. Like, everything is so interconnected, right? Like, the people that you can connect to, that you can help, who then in turn can help you in different things. Like we do the podcast. So we run the Live Period podcast, which is another
yeah,
thing that we just decided to go do, and has kind of blown up. And so, we meet Mo Wagner through doing that podcast, and talk to him, and Juan Toscano Anderson from the Warriors. We meet him through the podcast and all that sort of stuff. And then we're talking to those guys saying, hey, let's go run a camp for you in Germany, Mo. Let's go run some camps for you in Mexico, Juan. And they're all about it, and so then they can help kind of connect again to where we're helping kids in their name, right? And the Juan Toscano Anderson Mexico camps, and we'll help them with those, and that allows us to create more content, from running those camps, and more things to put in front of sponsors, and things like that. And so it ends up helping the kids. It ends up helping Juan. He looks like a superstar, for the give back that he does, that he helps then, and all that sort of stuff. And it kind of becomes this machine of helping, while at the same time creating these amazing stories and this amazing content, and mind share in the marketplace, and being different, being unique, going out doing things that other people aren't doing, and that from a business standpoint at the end of the day leads to business opportunities. So
yeah. But it's just sports in general. It's all about teamwork, right? The most
yeah,
successful teams, they play well together, and it's just what you have to do. I think off the court too, when you're involved in sports, in general, as an agent, GM, whatever it is, scouter, coach, it's all about networking and just picking out the people's brain, and it's like, how can I help you? Can I help you in
yeah.
any
I
way?
mean, we're excited about the time will come, probably sooner rather than
Oh, the
later,
Romania, right?
where yeah, yes, also that, but where we have a kid, because we also run camps domestically, the Undiscovered Showcase that used to be the Evan Turner Showcase in Chicago, a complete nonprofit organization deal where NBA player sponsors the camp. And so hundreds of kids come to that, 70, 80 scholarships come out of that camp every year. And at some point we will have a kid from one of those camps that that whether it's overseas or domestically, that like really makes it. And then when they're in the NBA, they're the sponsor for the next camp, and they get to give back through an organization that got them or helped get them, to where they are. And that's exciting for us to see that full circle where
giving back the game, giving back to the people that helped you. So that's
Yep.
pretty awesome. That's what kind of last 2-3 years, I start kind of helping kids in Romania just kind of get over the U.S. Start with a family, then they asked me, hey, our son wants to go to the U.S. and we know you went this route, and I wasn't really familiar with it, to be honest with you. I have some high school coaches, and I was the coach I play with, and then since then, I just look at my phone, it's like half of D1s in my phone. I'm like, how
Yep.
did I get there? It's like, because
Yep.
you have a kid and you send him to, a friend that's an assistant coach at some college D1s, like, he's not for us, but he might be for them. And then you
Yep.
root for them, and then it's always like that. And it all starts from, just trying to help.
Yep.
Without
there's players everywhere.
there's nothing I want back, but it's just seeing them succeed. And some of them just go to D3 level, and we have a kid that's going to be he's going pre-med. So he wants to be like a surgeon. He wants to be a surgeon. So it's just awesome seeing them having a chance to fulfill their dreams.
Yep.
At the highest level, if you think about it, professionally, because
Yep.
there's no surgeon in the world that gets paid more than in the U.S., for example. So
right.
it's really fulfilling on that side, and I totally get this line of work. It's pretty awesome. But I love
and there's players everywhere. It's the second most popular sport in the world. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. You think about when you were growing up in Romania, like just even in Europe, like where basketball was popular when you were a kid, but how much more so now? Like, it's crazy. I could come to Romania. We could go to Romania tomorrow and run a camp and find 5 college players that people aren't even paying attention to. It'd be easy.
Totally.
They're walking around all over the place. It just, a lot of times, especially like in Europe with the academy systems and the agents and, all that sort of thing, like it's sometimes difficult to navigate, who's who and connected to what and whatever. But like, it's the same way in Africa. In Nigeria, there are dudes running things and handling and, all this kind of stuff. And even once you don't even look at those guys, then there's this whole other group of kids that aren't connected to anybody that are also really talented. Like Owen at Wyoming, like he's from Ireland, and I first saw him when he was playing in Division.
Did you have a camp there, or where did you see him play? For example?
No, I was watching FIBA Seas, and small country stuff, yeah. Or Aeneas Young, who's at Ludwigsburg now, but played for Cyprus.
Yep.
In Division C, and it's you talk to these kids and it's like, all right, well, like, what are you thinking? And they're like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Like, especially in Europe, like everybody always has something, and they're like, no, I just want to go to college. I'm like, okay, we can do that. And that's literally just like kind of randomly poking around and seeing like, okay, there's this kid here, there's this kid there. I'm watching stuff the other day, the small country stuff. There's 2 kids in Wales that I love. So now I'm like digging around trying to get into Welsh basketball. And find Benjamin Voog and Minty Walker.
You're looking for the diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, because it's awesome. And honestly, like it's like looking down on the ground and they're just laying around all over the place.
I'll tell you this because under 18 B division, it's like 05 or something like that,
mm-hmm.
and we end up winning it, and I ended up being the MVP of it. And Jeff Taylor was playing in the B division, and we had a bunch of kids, that went high D1.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like social media was nothing, just back then.
Yeah.
So
can you imagine if you had social media back then?
Got back then in the B division was very minimal, I would say. Really, really the big time schools, like Beeline, West Virginia, he was recruiting me, so he came over. Gonzaga was there, but it was a handful, I think, of schools.
Yeah.
But now it's funny how it trickles down because there's so many coaches that go overseas right now watching the A division. Some kind of pay attention to B, but
it's crazy they don't put more time into B.
But the thing is that you go to A division and you kind of just reach for the moon because those kids
Yeah.
are either getting paid already. I mean, going to get a
There's
friend.
not a lot of guys in A that, I mean, there might be somebody that people didn't know before he got there and he just has a great tournament or something.
Yeah,
But the big names, I mean, the ones that are really killing it there are, yeah, they're either getting paid already or they're going to get paid, and their agent, even if they're not getting paid yet, their agent's not letting them come over to college.
they're like, yeah, we're
Um,
not doing that.
no, 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 no. But like Division B, I
Yeah,
mean, that's where Nemias Keita was, that playing for Portugal, and like Eric Peterson was literally the only dude in the gym, and at Utah State that got him over, and like Sweden's loaded with players. They're playing Division B last year, and guys like Sebastian Forsling that played for Division B Sweden, and like if that kid was in the United States, he'd be a 4 or 5 star kid, and he's over in Division B, and there's nobody in the gym. And so, and the good part is now, like, with Synergy, all the Division B stuff is on Synergy. Still working on trying to get Division C stuff on there because there's players in Division C. The kid from Monaco is really good. The kid that won the MVP, and then Aeneas that was basically second in MVP from Cyprus. Like, he's a 17-year-old pro for Ludwigsburg. Like, he doesn't hardly touch the floor for the senior team because if he did, he'd be going to the NBA. But he's just, he's really talented, and he's played for Cyprus. Like,
yeah.
most guys can't find Cyprus on a map. So there's just players well, Principal Singh. You probably saw me tweeting about Principal.
Yep.
I saw Principal 3 years ago in Asian Pacific Championships playing for India. And for 3 years, like, coach, you got to see this kid. You got to see this kid. And they're like, what? India? Like, what are you talking about? And then he goes to Global Academy down in Australia playing for Marty Clark. And like, he's really good down there. And I'm like, coach, okay, now he's down at Global Academy and he's coming over here at the, in Atlanta for the international game thing they did, whatever. And he's kicking the crap out of everybody. Like, you got to get on this. Nobody got on him. And now he's playing for G League Elite. So he's the future of Indian basketball if he clicks. And again, like, players everywhere.
So
Like,
text this coach like, I told you so.
oh, I blew them all up and said, you remember that kid 3 years ago that I said, yo, this kid is going to be really good. You should do something about it. Yeah. Well, now he's making, $100,000 playing at G League Elite with 3 other 5-star high school kids. Like, come on. But what can you do?
Yeah, it's different. Coaches have different views, and I know coaches that are like, okay, I want to see him live. I'm like, you can fly over if you want to. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
But
Well, it is funny though, because you look at the draft this year.
yeah,
How many? I'm trying to think. I swear it was 9, might be 9 or 10 uh, international non-college players projected to go in the first round. 1/3 of the first round draft.
I
And
just want to ask you about that. What do you think is the better route for prospects?
college.
Come over to high school, like come over to high school and play college, or stay at a European, whatever it is, Australian academy, and then come over for college.
And then come over for college.
So
I think personally, unless, and I mean, there are certain programs, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, we're not talking like
Brewster
Academies
Academy, or
or
something like, yeah, for sure, high end, great development systems, all that sort of stuff. But for the most part, the best development system in the world, until you are 18 years old or ready to go to college, is Europe. It just is, because you're playing incredibly organized, structured, intelligent basketball with a ton of um, just real applicability to the next level in it, right? But then once you are done with high school, the best development system in the world is American college. Like, the continued academies and stuff in Europe. I mean, by that point, like, unless they think you're going to be a dude, they're not paying
I
attention
totally
to
agree
you.
with you. But I think, like, for example, when I came over in '04, I feel like it was a little bit different. I just felt like it was a little bit different. That's why I came over for high school. But I totally agree with you right now. I think that's the route to go. It's stay here or wherever you are. If you're in a somewhat good program, then go over at 18. Get when
Yeah.
you're ready for college. Um, Yeah, because if you're 18 and you're not breaking the first team or whatever, then it's not really worth it. Like, go develop, go get a
I
degree
mean, Mo
and
was in Germany
yeah,
for Alba Berlin,
all about yeah.
and he, was playing and he was good and he got all that development and stuff. But when he came over to Michigan, he didn't play his freshman year, and not much his sophomore year either. Like it took 3 years for him to really truly develop into a pro.
Yeah.
And so, while he was being successful in Alba, if he'd have signed that contract, he'd have continued on to be a solid European player. But Michigan turned him into an NBA player. And that, but it took time and it took patience, because I think there's also this expectation a lot of times from European kids that, especially if they're playing at a good program and they play a lot over there, that they're going to come over here and just,
Like right away.
kick the crap out of everybody in college. And it's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
you know, um, and especially because like fit is so important. And that's, there's a lot of guys that make the wrong choices there as far as fit and level and all that kind of thing. But if you get it right, if you get the formula right for the right school and the right fit, the right kid coming from the right program, all that sort of stuff. I mean,
But again, you
you know,
said you help at least your guys when they come over. You kind of give them the blueprint of, hey, this college is like this. Like
yeah,
not like you said, not pushing them one way or the other. Just an honest review, I would say, of the way the coaches are, the colleges, whatever, right? So I
yeah,
think when you do something like that, then also helps the kid a lot because sometimes they get a scholarship and like, oh, I don't want to go to this mid major. I want to be like a power five. Well,
right.
and the
And they
question is
don't
why.
realize like,
Then you ask why, and then the question is like, well, like I want to play Kentucky, and I want to.
yeah,
Okay, is that going to help you? Like at the end of the day, like
right,
where do you see yourself? Do you just want to ride a bench for Alabama, or just like you just want to be a star at high major, whatever it is?
right.
But I think that's why you're doing a fabulous job. Just finding them, helping them all around. Awesome,
Appreciate it, man.
Brendan. Well, I really thank you for your time.
Yeah, you bet, man.
If you, if you can tell us where people can find you, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, on Twitter, we're at Juco Advocate, Juco Advocate. Um, Verbal Commits, same thing at Verbal Commits on Twitter. Instagram, we're still kind of plugging along, growing that a little bit, but it's I think it's at Juco_Advocate. Um, and then of course online with verbalcommits.com. Keep an eye on that. Next few months, going to be some cool stuff coming down the pike. And just keep an eye out on Twitter. Lots of new stuff. Even with COVID, we're not slowing down. And then check us out on the podcast, the live period. We're on iTunes and anywhere you get podcasts. Lining up some cool guests. So
awesome. Yeah, you had some cool guests, honestly. You did. So, well, Brendan, thank you very much, and we'll stay in touch.
you bet, man. Appreciate you.